Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. We have lots to discuss, a lot of news this morning stemming from a comment made on an open mic.
Open mics are dangerous, Mike. We've talked about it.
They are. They really are. But first, we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So let's talk about Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is the equivalent of hiring your father to be a backup quarterback for your team. Because, like, when you used to play football with your dad and he'd say go long, there'd be a point where he'd be like, no, come back, right? Because he can't reach you. Joe Flacco can't reach anybody over 40 yards in the air. He throws for 6 yards a pass, 55% completion percentage. He got paid $3.5 million. And ironically, some Eagles fans think it's a good signing. Now, if you believe he's going to do a great job with Jalen Hurts, God bless you, because he did nothing with Sam Darnold. If you believe he could actually come in and win a game, then you are really delusional. This was such an overpayment by Howie Roseman. I can't even tell you. I couldn't stop laughing yesterday.
Well, okay, the only one I can think of that was a bigger overpayment, and you'll know because I can't remember the name, but it was with the Jets. The veteran quarterback that they paid over $10 million, who was basically like a quarterback coach.
Oh, it was.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
McCown?
Yeah, Josh McCown. Even McCown is light years better than Flacco.
But Josh McCown was actually, somebody who could help out a young quarterback.
He really could. He actually, when he was there, he actually made good strides with Darnold and the others. I think he was there for. He was there for
2 years. First 2 years of Darnold.
Yeah, 2. Okay, well.
And he got paid.
And he did do something. He actually did help him a little bit.
Yeah.
But he got paid. Not going to help at all.
He got paid $10 million as a backup, and it was I know. But honestly, it's like for once in their existence, the Bills actually did something smart. For the first 2 years of Josh Allen, they had Matt Barkley as the backup.
Barkley's a smart guy. Like you. That's all you have him there for.
Yeah, smart guy, happy-go-lucky guy. Never was going to challenge Allen for the job, but it helped out Allen. It was basically the shoulder to cry on or whatever.
But if Barkley got on the field, he could complete some passes and do something.
Right.
Flacco literally was a 3-and-out guy, and it doesn't matter what team he's on. It doesn't matter the tools. And look, the Eagles aren't that good of a team anyhow. If you see a Jalen Hurts injury and Joe Flacco comes on the field, just change the channel.
They're done. But the point I was making was for the first couple years of Allen, there was no threat there, and I don't think the signing of Trubisky that they did last week is a threat. But the GM came out and said, God forbid if Josh Allen gets hurt, we need a guy. Since we're a Super Bowl contender, we need a guy who can step in and at least fill the gap. Joe Flacco is not there to fill the gap, and the Eagles are not a Super Bowl contender. They want somebody to be a coach without being a coach. And as you said, I don't think Flacco did a great job with that in New York. So,
and Denver too. Randy said Denver, he was horrible too.
Now, the other thing football-wise, and then I got one other point before we start. The other thing football-wise today that I laughed at, for everybody who is a fan of the Washington football team and hoped that the scandals that were revealed last year would get Daniel Snyder to sell the team, screw you is what Daniel Snyder is saying, because he just bought out all the minority owners, and he is the sole owner of the franchise. So he is not going anywhere. I wouldn't actually doubt it if they brought the Redskins back, if they brought the name back, since he has control.
No, they're not going to do that. But the league approved it. Let's just say it like this: the NFL doesn't care. That's all.
Nope, they don't.
Plain and simple. They're always going to have scandals. They'll just, wait until they die out. This is Snyder's way of, probably because his partners were saying, we don't like what's going on. And he was probably like, fine, I'll just buy you out.
Yeah.
And that is the way that the NFL is at the moment. If they ever get low on cash, that league is going to be in trouble. We all know it.
Yeah, but they're never going to get low on cash.
You don't know. You never say never, Mike.
Well, $110 billion TV contract?
Yeah, but you never say never. There's always something new that could come along. It's probably not going to happen in our lifetime, but you never say never.
Exactly. Now, the last thing before we start, Some of you are watching this on YouTube, and I like YouTube, and YouTube is a great vehicle. But they're getting a little overboard with their commercials. If you don't have the premium version of YouTube, now, for example, Phil Collins did a sort of a mini podcast thing, 6 episodes. And, every time it comes up on my timeline, I'll listen to it. I'll fast forward through it.
Right.
Well, it's maybe a 20-minute video. There are 6 commercials on it. So
yeah, I can't stand that.
I'm listening to it, and all of a sudden, in the middle of a sentence, the commercial pops up for Ford or for Budweiser, and you can't even skip the ad anymore. And if you're driving along, you have to look off the driving on the road to hit skip ad. I mean, if there's an ad at the beginning, that's fine. If there's a couple ads, one at the end, that's fine. People can skip by them. But what they're doing is they're making it impossible for you to skip by the ad.
You know what the answer is? I'll tell you what the answer is. My answer is I own the content I buy. So I keep the CDs. I copy the CDs to an iPod or my computer. I listen to that. I never listen to any of that stuff off of YouTube unless it's just one song. And I don't deal with any of those commercials or anything. I don't listen to any of the online services. Well, I don't want to deal with commercials when I'm listening to music.
I would do that if it was just music, but it was sort of like a podcast, like a documentary.
Yeah.
So and the thing I made the mistake is when you click on it off of Facebook, it gives you a number of options in terms of services like Spotify or Google Podcasts. I'm going to go to those from now on because the commercials are absolutely ridiculous. So, YouTube, you got to change because that's ridiculous. All right.
Trying to make a living, right?
Yeah, I guess. Jesus. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, March 24th, 2021.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, we have to start with the story of the day, and that was the relieving of referee Tim Peel after he was caught on an open mic last night. Now, okay, I listened to it a couple times. Basically, I know that at the point that his comment was made, I believe Nashville was leading 1-0, and what he basically said was, I have to, and he dropped an expletive in the middle of it. I have to give Nashville a call, basically a call to balance things out, which Russ, after, dropping the curtain, people like me for eons who've been
100 years,
who've said there is an agenda in the NHL to give preferential treatment to star players and also balance out penalties. And in my mind, keep teams that are behind in the game because games that are close are more interesting to watch. What Peel said was exactly an indicator that is the case.
Yeah, I the biggest thing or the biggest takeaway for me is when coaches say it, and I've heard him say it many times, don't let the game be decided by the refs. That's sort of what they're talking about. Because if you even get close to a guy and they're getting close to a makeup call, you're going to get victimized. They can't always do it, though. They can't just make up a penalty. So they don't do that. But there are enough close infractions that can be ignored or the whistle be swallowed when it's middle of the third period, late third period, overtime, or the playoffs. We've all known this. This is just everything we've always known just has been confirmed.
No. El Guapo is just trying to goad me into a rant here with this stupidity. But here's the statement. Now, it happened last night. I heard it on the morning shows. I listened to it myself off of Twitter. The NHL was rather swift in their justice. National Hockey League Senior Vice President of Hockey Operations Colin Campbell announced today that referee Tim Peel, following his comments during the game last night between the Red Wings and the Nashville Predators, no longer will be working NHL games now or in the future. Nothing is more important than the ensuring the integrity of our game, Campbell said. Tim Peel's conduct is a direct contradiction to the adherence of the cornerstone principle that we demand of our officials, that our fans, players, coaches, and all those associated with our game expect and deserve. There is no justification for his comments, no matter the context or his intention, and the National Hockey League will take any and all steps necessary to protect the integrity of our game. What a load of crap. Now, first of all, I'll just say this. I think it was Elliot Friedman that reported. Tim Peel is retiring. Tim Peel, by this statement, some people think he's being fired. It doesn't say he's being fired. They're saying he is not going to be refereeing any games.
He's just not refereeing, Mike. He's just not fired, and he's not refereeing.
Right. So they're going to allow him to retire. He's going to collect his pension and everything else. And what they're talking about here is, again, the curtain being dropped and them saying, okay, a referee coming out and saying during a game, I got to give the team that is ahead a penalty to keep the other team in the game. I don't know how it can be, how any other inference can be drawn from that, Russ.
No, I can't. I mean, that's essentially, he's like, look, I know it's not a great penalty, but this is why I did it. We know why you did it. He is a sacrificial lamb at the moment, but he's going to get his pension, and that's good.
Yeah.
The NHL looks like they did swift justice, fine, but
it's okay.
I'm going to remain the optimist though, and say I hope this does lead to change, because now Ray Ferraro is talking about it, and others are talking about it and saying what needs to be done. So I'm going to remain the optimist on this one and say I hope this will create some change in the way they deal with it.
Okay, and see that this is what I'm talking about here, and we've seen this many a time. And you, as I said this to you, and you said, well, there's some exceptions to the rule. It's not always the case. But say, for example, Pittsburgh jumps out to a 3-0 lead on the Sabres, which would be no shock because the Sabres are terrible. Okay, based on that, and we've seen this many times, the team that is trailing, will get the next power play or the next couple power plays. And it's not it's not all of a sudden because Pittsburgh is getting cheap. It's because I think the referees want to keep the game close. So, if that agenda changes and penalties are called based on merit, based on a player trips another player, and it's called, bravo. But do I believe it's going to happen? Not a friggin' chance. No.
I'll say it like this. I've seen some games this year where teams have gotten like 4 or 5 consecutive power plays. So I don't think it happens 99% of the time, but I do think it happens 75% of the time. So if it happens less, then this will be a positive, and we'll all say, hey, this was great. But note to everybody, always tap the mic and say, is this on? You may sound dumber if it is, and you get heard saying that, but it's worse for the outcome. People used to get made fun of, if you remember, a decade ago for just saying, is this on? I would rather get caught saying, is this on, than anything else that happens after.
Well, I'm pretty sure what happened was, he called, he did the, number 35, yes, 2 minutes tripping. And then they were going to a break, and he kept the mic on by accident when they were going to break, and it was caught on the air. They think that's what it was. So, it wasn't like he, in the middle of play or something like that, or something.
No. I didn't think it was.
But all I can say is, we have lived through a time in the playoffs where if you didn't break a bone or draw blood, there wasn't going to be a penalty called. I remember I think it was like Chicago, Minnesota. This was like in the 80s, so the first round series, and they were just like destroying each other out there, hacking and slashing and tripping, and nothing was called. And playoffs have gotten better now. They're actually calling playoff penalties in overtime, and it's not murder; it's an actual call. But I don't know, the refereeing and the officiating in the NHL. I have problems with the NFL because basically you could call holding or pass interference on almost every call. The NBA has a star system where if you even touched Michael Jordan, you got called. Or now if you even touch LeBron James, you'll get called. We know in baseball, we were talking about it yesterday, how umpires had a strike zone as big as a Mack truck. Who was the guy in the playoffs? Eric Gregg? Was it Eric Gregg?
Eric Gregg.
With Livan Hernandez, where the ball was 4 feet outside and he was going strike one. I mean, it's so there's anomalies in every sport. But I just think hearing it coming out of the mouth of an official during a game, I mean, that's the reason why the NHL responded so quickly, because they can't deny that this is something that is inherent in officiating in their game, and now they're sort of covering it up.
Yeah, I mean, again, nobody's buying the cover-up. They can do whatever they want. When you have someone like Ferrara that's coming out and saying, listen, just call the rule book, that's what we'd all like. But again, when does any sport just call the rule book? If that were the case, the NBA would have a foul or an infraction every 10 seconds. So they changed it all just so traveling's different and everything's different. Again, we don't want them to do that in the NHL, but if we think they're going to call the rule book the way it is, you're crazy.
I mean, coming out of the lockout, you remember how penalties went up incrementally. They went up like crazy. And it was all this obstruction, holding or whatever. Okay, did anybody like the fact that the game was like essentially 12, 13 power plays? No, that sucks. As a fan, watching power play after power play after power play stinks. Yeah. But I don't think you're ever going to change players trying to get an edge by hooking a little bit or by impeding another player. It's never going to stop.
Well, there's an art to showing the ref, look, I'm not doing anything, and you're still doing something.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah. All right, let's I'm sure Ak will have a thought on this when he comes in a few minutes. Let's talk about the game that you were at last night. The New Jersey Devils held on for a 4-3 victory over the Philadelphia Flyers, but the score was
they dominated the game.
Right, the score was not indicative of the game because it was pretty much a New Jersey Devil domination for 55 minutes, and then they sat back to try to protect the lead, and they gave up a couple late goals.
Yep.
What I looked at, Russ, watching most of that game, is the Flyers' defensive zone coverage is bordering on inept, and that is really, I say, it speaks a lot to what's going on.
When you have three guys on the same side, it's team defense too. Yeah.
Holy shnikes. The Michael McLeod goal, he went through the Flyers defense like a hot knife through butter. And the other three goals were basically tic-tac-toe plays where the Flyers defense wasn't impeding passes, wasn't positionally in the right place. They were all over the place. And Nat in the chat, Eric Gustafsson is a train wreck. We said it
when he was signed.
Yeah, and right now it's like, so 2 of your 6 defensemen are guys who are, quote, challenged in their
own. Look, Gustafsson is light years better than Gustafsson. If that makes you feel better, and it shouldn't, because you don't want him on the top pairing. Here's my takeaway from yesterday's game. No matter what happens, you're always going to have a game, have a game. You're always going to see games with Carter Hart in there giving up 3 or 4 goals. That is the norm for this year. I'm not going to tell you what the blame is, whether it's him, it's the defense, it's all of it, it's some of it. It doesn't seem to matter. At the end of the day, he's given up 3 or 4 a game on average. Go look it up. That's what he's doing. And it's been like this for a little while now. So I don't think that's changing anytime soon. I actually thought I want to say it was maybe the 3rd goal that he dropped his shoulder again. And when you do that, you make yourself smaller in the net, and it's not good. So get past that. Jake Voracek. I think they have to get rid of him at all costs. This even means if they have to entice Seattle to take him.
Yeah. And that's going to be a tough nut to crack because he's making, I think, 8-6.
Yeah. But you have to make every effort because you have to somehow break up Giroux and Voracek. It is bad for the look of the team. it is bad for the distribution of the puck or times that a guy touches the puck, because when Voracek's on the ice, he has to have the puck, right? But at the end of the day, he doesn't know what to do with the puck anymore. He knows how to get up the ice. He knows how to get around defenders and everything else. And then there's this moment where now he has to figure out what he's going to do. At this point in his career, it's not a good thing for him because there's not enough players around that sort of vibe with him that can play with him. Even Giroux, they tried to go back with him, and it's just not working. It doesn't matter that he has 25 points. He'll always get 65 points in this league, 60, 65, right around that thing. He'll never get in the 80s again. But the idea is the amount of ice amount of time on the ice, his shooting percentage is horrible. And even though he is a pass-first guy, the problem is you don't know when he's going to pass it. Like I saw one yesterday, I think it hit Konechny on the stick, and it hit it. By the time Konechny was realizing the pass was coming to him, because Voracek had skillfully gone down the ice and broken through the zone, it hit like the upper shaft of the stick, and it just bounces away. And this is what happens with Voracek, and they don't know what to do with him now. Yep. He's back to being a minus again. He's back to barely playing defense, and I mean barely. He's doing it, but barely. There's just so many things. The giveaways are more than the takeaways as usual.
Well, here's the reality that Chuck Fletcher has to face. Voracek's got 3 more years after this year at 8.25. That's almost immovable. Even for Seattle, I mean, you'd have to probably give up a first-round pick and something to get them. And even then, I don't know whether they take him, because if he's still a productive forward, but not to the point of $8.25 million. So, maybe you would have to retain to get them to take him on. But the reality here is Giroux's got another year left in his contract. So if he's starting to slip, then you've got money, maneuvering room. You've got 2 more years of Van Riemsdyk, and Van Riemsdyk has redeemed himself a little bit this year.
At this point, you could deal. He's not the biggest problem anymore.
Right. But the problem here is your best player is Couturier, and he's 6th on the team and forwards in terms of money at $4.33 million. He is going to expect to make more.
Oh, he's going to want bang.
He's going to want
giving everything to this team.
He's going to want, I would say, $8.5 to $9 million a year.
Yep.
And if they don't give it to him, he's going to go someplace else, and they're going to rue the day. And the thing is, they're going to have to clear out not only Giroux, because there are other players that they're going to have to sign as well.
They still. I don't think they're getting ready to do Giroux yet, but I think it could be coming down the line.
Well, I mean, they could. Okay, if Giroux wants to stay, maybe he's a guy who takes a not a veteran minimum, but takes like a lesser deal, like Chara.
Probably would. Look, he's still great on faceoffs. He's one of these guys that if he's not scoring, he does so many other things. It's not like Jake, where literally you have to have him get points, or there's not much else to his game. So
Giroux, after next year, in fact, the fact is, after this summer, he could sign an extension if he wanted to, or if they wanted to. They could sign him to make like.
He's got his family here. I think he would do it cheaply.
Right,
I do, but as far as the other things, here's what I believe will happen down the line. And I've been talking to some people and haven't been getting any pushback on it. I think at the end of the day, with Travis Sanheim and Phil Myers, and come 2 years from now, only one of those players will be there. One of those players is not going to get, what they think is a big contract for a defenseman. It's not going to work out. They're not going to have the money, and the pairing isn't working out. And you don't know whether their development cycle is not on the same level together either.
Well, okay, and you're not saying this, I am, but looking strictly at the cap, Sanheim is up for a contract this summer, and Myers is under contract, and he's a righty. He's under a contract for 2 more years. That would lead me to believe that Sanheim is the guy.
I think he's going to get traded too. I do.
Yeah. So
I know everybody looks at Konechny being traded. I do think there's a chance, because he really hasn't done great under AV. There's been moments, but not enough. And so that's another player that could be traded. I understand Chuck Fletcher is looking for like this big home run trade that probably isn't happening at this trade deadline. And Flyers fans have to kind of decide if they're going to deal with them doing something minor, because they're not going to sell off everything either, because they still think they're close. But like, to answer Cam, they're not going to send Carter Hart back to juniors. That would never happen. Nobody would ever do that. That's impossible to happen. But sitting him in the AHL is not going to help him either. At this point, you just need to continue to rehab him and play him less frequently. But you can only play him less frequently if you can play Elliott more frequently. But we're seeing what's happening again with Elliott, because now he's getting exposed a little bit because of the compressed schedule. When Elliott was really doing great with the Flyers, the scheduled games were more spread out, and you'd be able to get away with that a little bit more if you needed him to start 4 or 5. So
here is the dilemma that the Flyers are in right now. And Chuck Fletcher is holding a press conference at 1:00, so we're going to end the show right before 1:00. The Flyers, after the loss yesterday, have 34 points. In the East right now, the Islanders have 46, the Caps have 44, the Penguins have 40. The Penguins have the Sabres and Devils 11 times in the last 24 games. That's half their schedule. So I'm telling you right now, I think the Penguins are making the playoffs, unless all of a sudden Buffalo becomes a juggernaut.
They have seemed to have turned the corner, and at the time they were turning the corner, the Flyers were getting worse.
Now, here's the reality here. So they're 6 points or more behind 3
Great, I have breaking news.
Go ahead.
Anybody showing a COVID-19 vaccination card will get a free donut.
Oh, at Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, great. I'm diabetic, so thanks for that, Krispy Kreme.
Listen, Mike, it's a free donut. Shut up.
You broke in the middle of my insightful.
That's big news for our listeners.
Sorry, screw them and screw Krispy Kreme. No, just kidding. Okay, but this
nice gesture.
But this is the point for the Flyers that is reality. There's 6 points or more behind 3 teams in their division. All of them played around the same games as the Flyers. So I'm not saying they can't catch them, but with 25 games to go, it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough because they play the Devils. They play enough, like they play them 4 or 5 times. But I'm going to tell you something about the Devils. They're faster than the Flyers. And Miles Wood, when he plays against the Flyers, looks like he's shot out of a cannon sometimes. Yesterday, there was a play. I want to illustrate this because a lot of times people will be like, well, what's going on with Jack Hughes? He doesn't have enough points because your expectations were up here, right? Jack Hughes had the puck, and he was going through the neutral zone. He was going down ice, and Michael Raffl was right on him, maybe a step and a half or 2 steps away from him. As he kept moving up the ice, Michael Raffl was still that step and a half, 2 steps away from him. He could never get close to him because that's how good a skater Jack Hughes is. The other stuff is going to come around, but that is a gift that a lot of players don't have. And so those kinds of players are hard to cover. Miles Wood may not be a great finisher, but he gives them trouble. You know who else is starting to give the Flyers trouble? Ty Smith. Ty Smith is really coming into his own, and I know I talked about him for years. And this one, he's making me look good, but I don't think it's all him, really. And I believed in him maybe earlier than some, but he is turning into a hell of a defenseman. And I got to tell you, that game, Subban looked a little better than I had seen him before. He successfully sealed off a play in the defensive zone I didn't think he could do. His passing was a little better. He's still not a threat offensively or anything. He had 1 shot on net, and he missed a couple shots, but he was better.
But and I was focusing, and you were at the game. I know that I asked you about Vatanen and how he played, but Kulikov
didn't even notice him.
Yeah, Kulikov wasn't exact. I mean, let's just say this: these 2 guys who have been talked about in rumors, they're depth guys. You're trading them for 3rd, 4th round pick. It's not, you're not getting a lot for them.
Kulikov played second pairing yesterday.
Yeah, right. They're probably showcasing him in a way.
Yeah, Vataman's playing 3rd pairing. That's how badly he's played. And I spoke to a scout who said nothing but bad things about the way Vataman's playing. So his market value is down, down, down.
Right. So now, okay, the Bruins are in 4th place in the East, 2 points ahead of the Flyers, but they have 3 games in hand.
All right, so I'm going to tell you something. Al Morganti said something locally.
Yeah.
You will laugh at this. His basic premise was, well, maybe the Bruins will continue to stay screwed up because of COVID, and that's how the Flyers can make the playoffs. No faith in the team whatsoever. And from Al, that takes a lot to get him to have no faith. He is basically just hoping that COVID ravages the Bruins and they never get to full strength, and that's how the Flyers get in the playoffs. He didn't say it like that, but I'm just saying that's
your only hope.
That's your hope.
Okay, but here's the Rangers have played the same amount of games, and they're 2 points behind the Flyers. And if you look at goal differential,
and they play the Rangers still.
Right. And if you look at goal differential, every one of the teams in the top 6 in the East is a plus, except the Flyers. They're minus 14. The Rangers are plus 12. Now, that doesn't mean anything in and of itself, but I'm just saying the indicators are there in terms of the Flyers that they're in deep trouble. So,
yeah.
Okay.
I will say this. Matt's asking me about Connor Bedard. Let's worry about his draft year a few years from now. I haven't even seen him live yet. I haven't seen enough of him on video yet.
Yeah.
Give the kid time. I know he's great. I hear great things from people that I trust.
That's the 15-year-old in the Western Hockey League.
Yeah,
exceptional stats. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to talk about him right now.
He'll be the number 1 pick in the 2023 draft. When we get closer to that, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So, okay, one thing last night, I saw a little bit of the Blackhawks-Panthers game, but the most newsworthy thing was that Barkov didn't play because of a lower body injury. It didn't sound like it was like a day-to-day thing. It sounded like this was something serious. And I'll just tell you right now, if the Panthers lose Barkov for any lengthy period, that kills them in terms of
that Cinderella season goes down the tubes.
Yeah, I mean, they've put together a really good season. You know, they're getting production. You know, Huberdeau's having a fantastic year. Hornquist has played wonderfully, but you lose that guy, that's your number 1 guy. I don't see how you win.
I will answer this from Vince, Mike, because it's Devils related. The Devils just signed Tyce Thompson. I did see him live last year. And I saw him for a couple games. He really can hammer the puck. He's got a great shot. He doesn't have great speed. And so I do think he should get some AHL time, work on his speed over the summer. I don't think he's going to be able to help him right now. That's my feeling. But he is a guy that may be able to score goals at the NHL level, yes.
Yeah. Some interesting rumors I saw. First one was a Jake Virtanen deal going to Florida. I cannot remember. It was somebody out of Vancouver. It was not like it was somebody from Sportsnet or TSN had said that there was some chatter about a Jake Virtanen deal going to Florida for Marcus Nudavara.
Sign me up now. I'll trade for Virtanen and give that up every time.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Jim Benning cannot operate under the assumption that Jake Virtanen being traded is going to be like the next Cam Neely.
Right.
You can't operate as a general manager in the NHL that way. You have to get the best return that you can for a defenseman or a forward or a goalie, and you just go that way. Is Marcus Nudavara the best return they can get for? I mean, the talk was Danton Heinen with Anaheim.
That's a better return.
That's a better return. But Nudavara, I mean, okay, they have Jordy Ben as a UFA. They have Travis Hamonic as a UFA. That probably means that they're not going to re-sign these guys. And Nudavara is under contract. I think he's got another year. I'm looking right now at Cap Central to see where he is. Let me just see. Florida. Nudavara has one more year, $2.7 million. So he's under contract, and it's a reasonable amount. But Russ, he's always struck me as a 5'6".
He's a 6. He's not very impactful. He'll block some shots. He can move around. He's not going to score many points. But he's an average NHL defenseman that you could plug in. There is a tremendous shouldn't say tremendous. There's still room for upside here with Virtanen, especially in Quenneville's system. And the fact that, he has that greasy nature and maybe he can get the turnovers under control. He still has offensive talent. Now, he does need to be in close, but he's a decent sized guy and he can be physical. I still think there's something there for Virtanen, and that's why I would rush to make this trade.
Yeah, and okay, not only Ben and Hamonic, But Alex Edler is also a UFA after this year. He's 35 years old. I don't know.
He'll probably sign with them again.
He probably will, but I mean, there's been chatter that he might retire. He's 35. He's had a long career. I think he could come back, and I don't know if he's going to make $6 million anymore because they got to pay Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is an RFA, so they've got like 2/3 of their defense that is not under contract next year. So them getting a defenseman with term that's on a low amount would make sense. I just don't think Nudavara is that good. But if that's all they think they can get for Virtanen, I mean, then the market really the market for him is barren. Now, Eck posted in his blog today about Jonathan Quick. We heard rumors about that earlier this week regarding Quick coming out of from David Pagnotta the fourth period.
Yeah.
Kyle Dubas is not this stupid. I'll just say that. Jonathan Quick could be a Hall of Famer. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. He's won a Conn Smythe.
I think he probably is a Hall of Famer, and it's hard to say because they don't put in a lot of goalies, but I think he has distanced himself from others of his era. Unlike the other two Stanley Cup goalies like Osgood and Vernon and Barrasso, I think there is a case for Quick that those players can't make. So I think he's a Hall of Famer. That being said, he's had numerous injuries over the last couple years that have made him not even close to the goaltender he was, I would say, 5 or 6 years ago. Now, and he can get snippy with the media. So imagine in Toronto how that might play.
Well, I'm not going to worry about that.
Oh
no, I'm not, because I think right now, Russ, they're concerned more than anything about the player's ability on the ice.
Dion Phaneuf was just a delight in the locker room, wasn't he, Mike?
Well, and they made him team captain, so it was.
And then to talk to, and I'm sure the equipment guy loved him.
Hey, me and Dion got along famously. I even have a picture next to Alicia Cuthbert. So, but the point is this: is that Jonathan Quick is making $5.8 million for the next 2 years after this year. He has pretty much lost his job to Cal Peterson. Cal Peterson is cheaper and younger, and clearly, if there are rumors about Quick being moved, that tells you that they want to make Peterson the number one. Jonathan Quick is not worth $5.8 million.
No,
I don't know if he's worth if they retained up to half his salary, whether he is better than Frederik Andersen. Now I know his playoff, record is fantastic, and Freddie Andersen's is not. But Jonathan Quick is significantly older, and
I'd still rather have Andersen than Quick, if that tells you something.
Yeah, and so this is not an upgrade. And plus, he's got 2 more years.
Yeah, this isn't like getting Glenn Hall with the St. Louis Blues and hoping he can win a Stanley Cup. I think Quick is even past that. Glenn Hall was an older guy, but I don't think he was as injured as Quick has been. I think that's the issue.
This isn't Bauer and Sawchuk in 67. This isn't Plante and Hall with St. Louis in 68. This isn't Jacques Plante going to the Leafs in 71 and having arguably the best career year of any goaltender if you look the stats up. I mean, okay, if you put Jonathan Quick on a team that has a really good like if you put Jonathan Quick on the Islanders, I think he'd be a pretty good goaltender.
Yeah,
because he wouldn't have to. And I'm not saying he would have to stand on his head with Toronto, but they're still a team that gives up chances.
Oh no, absolutely.
I think they're much better.
And he is still athletic. Don't get me wrong. Quick is athletic. I think he's just a little too scrambly around the net these days.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't care if he's best friends with Jack Campbell and he likes Jake Muzzin. I mean, that's all fine and good. I'm sure he would fit in, but the reality here is, I think Kyle Dubas would rather go into next season, if he doesn't decide to sign Frederik Andersen with $5 million in cap space to go after another goaltender, than to be attached to Jonathan Quick for 2 more years. 2 more years.
No, I agree, but there is a lot of pressure on Dubas right now. I think it's more than you give it credit for, because the way the Leafs were in first place, if for some reason they go through the same thing that they always have and get bounced unceremoniously, it's going to look worse, and it's going to play worse in the press too.
And today Frederick Anderson did not practice at the Leafs training facility. Their 3 goalies were Jack Campbell, Michael Hutchinson, and Ian Scott, who's on the taxi squad. So
David Ayres, he wasn't there.
No, he was getting ready to plow the ice. Now
he was there then.
I don't know for sure. I don't know if he still has that job. I'm sure he's executive producer of his Disney movie, Russ.
Yes, I'm sure he is.
With Chris Pratt playing.
I hope he's getting points on the back end too.
Yeah, Chris Pratt is going to play David Ayres.
Chris Pratt looks like he's never played sports in his life. But anyhow,
yeah, he's good as Scott Hatterberg in Moneyball.
Did he actually play? I remember him being in it. I think he had to reach for the ball as a first baseman. I don't think he did much else in that movie.
Well, I don't know how they dub it. Like, can they put in his face on somebody who's swinging at the plate? Because the swing when he hit the home run.
Yeah, they definitely could do that if they wanted to.
Yeah, it looked like it was anybody can fake, unless you're Gary Cooper and Pride of the Yankees. Anybody can fake a swing. Now the other thing was, and TSN on Insider Trading continues to promote the Michael Granland to Toronto rumor, and Dave Poulin, who I respect as a commentator for TSN, former assistant GM of the Leafs. Guy's got a lot of connections, a lot of knowledge. He said that Granland is a terrible fit for the Leafs, and I agree.
That's what I've been saying,
and we've been saying for a couple of weeks. And the fact that it could be a situation where, and right now, Granland was mentioned a couple months ago, and the only reason you think he was mentioned was because the Leafs tried to sign him in the offseason when they signed Simmons and Thornton and all these guys, and he went back to Nashville and got almost $4 million. Well, that, interest, maybe that means they're still interested, but not a $3.75 million, and not a situation where he doesn't fit what the Leafs need. So I really think that there's not a lot to this, but I'm not ripping the people who are reporting it because I'm sure they're hearing it. But in terms of a fit for that particular team, it's not.
Who are we talking about?
Michael Granland with Toronto. The rumor keeps being out there, and it makes no sense because Granland is not the type of player the Leafs need. He's
just really not very good, honestly.
Right.
I mean, the reality is, for the money they're spending for him, he's just really not all that good. I agree. One of the things I was doing while I was gone, and I'm so sorry, guys, for being late today. This is rumor time, and it's crazy. I'm going to be updating the rumor chart, writing a really big rumor story right after this thing. You guys are amazing. Thank you, Russ and Mike, for doing this.
You're welcome.
Can't thank you enough. Okay, so the Leafs are the front for Connor Garland. That's their guy. And we've talked about why it makes so much sense on so many levels. Obviously, if they get Connor Garland, you can probably hand them the cup.
No.
I know you hate when I say anything like that, Mike, but I'm just saying that I think adding Connor Garland to the Leafs, and that is the guy they're talking about. So when basically
that makes sense.
Yeah. They are absolutely. And when you go back to the press conference that you went to with Dubas and stuff like that, you can just replace Connor Garland whenever he says we're looking for somebody, and it fits with everything he said. It fits in every possible way. We're looking for another guy, who's going. He's really, and I kind of have to say, agree with what you said to us the other day, which is that if they trade Connor Garland, it's over. What are they? I mean, who are they? And how can Armstrong not see Connor Garland as a part of their future?
He has to be a piece. These guys don't grow on trees, especially in Arizona for offense. They just don't.
Okay, let's just I'll be quick on this, but let's piece this together because Arizona is bereft of draft picks because of the Taylor Hall deal and because of the penalty because of the cheating. They've lost first round picks, they've traded first round picks, second round picks. They have a ton of they don't have a ton of draft capital.
Right.
They also have five unrestricted free agent defensemen: Goligoski, Yarmulson, Demers, Esterly, and
Correct.
Lyubushkin.
Correct.
So they need bodies. Now Soderstrom is coming.
Yep.
And in a deal here, if it was Toronto, it would probably be a first-round pick.
It's going to be a first-round pick for sure.
And most likely Timothy Liljegren.
Right.
As part of it. So Liljegren would be in the NHL this year for them. And, along with Ekman Larsson and Soderstrom, you've got the whole Swedish connection there. It makes a lot of sense. And probably another draft pick on top of it. And the whole reason the Leafs would do that and give it is because Garland, they can fit him at $775,000 under the cap.
Which, again, would still be highway robbery if that were the trade.
Yes.
And, again, it would just – it makes me sad. The hockey fan in me just makes me sad that this is what would happen, and a team like Toronto would get a player like this for a player they're not using. Now, it doesn't mean they're not good.
I would have to think, honestly, it's got to be more than that.
You would have to hope.
Because there's other teams that will put more than that out there. Because anybody can fit Garland in. Like, he's a simple guy to fit into your kind of
that's why I think it would have to be more than just the first round pick because they don't have it's
more than a first round pick, but more than like one first round pick, perhaps. It could be I'm not going to say a first. I'm not going to say 2 first round picks, but like a first, a second, and Liljegren, something like that.
That's possible.
I think closer to like where you have to be. I think
that's and okay, because right now this is Arizona. Arizona does not have a first and a third and a 7th next year. I think the Leafs would probably give them a first, a third, and Liljegren, and maybe something even on top of that. If the deal was bigger than that, meaning like if a guy like Kerfoot was added in, is what Russ, you could see a Lawson Krause be included in that deal because he could provide the beef. But honestly, I think that makes sense a lot more than a Michael Granland, who has just really not played that well over the last 3 years and is making 5 times what Garland is making.
Obviously, the Flyers are the other big story that's going on. I'm sure you guys discussed them.
Yes.
And we have the big press conference or whatever, the availability coming up for Fletcher at 1:00, right? Yeah. And that's why the show's early. I don't know what's coming, but I don't think it's going to be anything giant. I think it's going to be a general,
Well, he is going to announce that they signed Max Willman to a 2-year deal starting next year. He is going to announce that to try and disarm the crowd. And
this is a really bad time for him to do this. If he doesn't
but it's something that he's going to try and disarm.
If he doesn't have something good to say, because he's going to be, he's going into like after last night's game, he's going into the into the fire. Like he should. I don't know that I would have done this unless he's got something bigger to say, or something to give people. But I don't get the impression he does. Fletcher's not. And one thing I really have never thought Fletcher's very good at reading a room.
No, I agree with that.
So this is going to be an interesting press conference. Or
there's
whatever.
Going to be some tension.
Yeah, there's going to be contention. There's going to be.
He's a very calm guy. The tension is going to come from the writers.
Oh yeah. I really think that's going to be. It's going to be fun to watch or listen to in our case, or zoom in on. But I think that we've got a lot. The Flyers after last night, that could have been a bit of a game changer for them. Another loss, another tricky spot. There is still a lot of season left. They're going to say that.
They could say it, but not nobody. This is what Al Morganti said, Ek. He said, and again, nobody's a bigger homer than Al, and this is how much he's bailed on it. He goes, well, maybe COVID will continue to cause problems for the Bruins, and that's how they'll get in. That is his hope.
And the Flyers will, they will use the excuse of that COVID destroyed them because they had 6 guys out at the same time, and that did break the momentum. They were flying high. They were in first place for a while there, and they did get, this definitely, and it's not legitimate, but at the same time, it did affect everybody, but it did affect the Flyers in a bad way with a lot of players at the same time, so who knows? I mean,
if nothing else, it shouldn't have affected the goaltending.
Yeah.
Yeah, the goaltending is going to be, and I think that question he's going to be talking about as well. I wouldn't be shocked. One of the things that was thrown out there was the idea of Carter Hart going to the Phantoms for a
They're not going to do that.
No.
I don't think they're going to do that either. These are some of the rumors that are flying around. I don't buy into that at all either. They obviously, and I don't think we're going to be seeing a coach firing or anything like that. Like that's
no, we're not going to see a coach firing.
So I mean, this is obviously not the way that's going to happen. So
I just retweeted the Paul Stewart column from HockeyBuzzcast.
Yeah, it's really good. Check it out.
Yeah, definitely take a look at that. And
all right, I'm going to run so I can set up my computer.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. And I'll just I touched on this before.
Yeah.
Just to finish here, the thing that you posted about Jonathan Quick. I know. I really I know that it's out there, but from what I've heard, there really is nothing to it from the Toronto perspective. They're not into the thing that kills them. Like if Quick was a 1-year rental and Anderson was out for what they thought was a lengthy period and they could maybe bury him on LTIR, then I think this would be viable. The problem is there's the 2 more years of Quick and the significant drop off that Quick has had over the last couple of years. Even if the Kings retained $2 million and he was a under $4 million goaltender, I don't think he's viable.
I think he is at that point, and I think this only happens if Anderson's injury is bigger than we think, and he is going on LTIR. That's in my opinion. If Anderson goes on LTIR, this is their move because they and it has to be the Kings have to retain money, but this is their move because they are a Stanley Cup contender. And you need to bring in a goalie, either Holtby or Quick, in my opinion.
Well, I've got one other potential option. And, of course, it's a team that normally the Leafs would never trade, or this team would never trade with the Leafs, and it's the Buffalo Sabres. But since it's they're in the different divisions right now, and this guy is a rental.
Yeah.
Linus Ullmark. Linus Ullmark is now back healthy. He's making $2.6 million.
Very good goalie, but it's a hell of a lot of pressure to put on him. Like that. I mean, this is you're looking for the guy who's going to win you a Stanley Cup, Mike. And he's like, that's why you look at guys like Holtby and Quick because in the past, we have seen it happen. That goalies who have success, in the playoffs, know how to win. It's just. I mean, the only Ullmark's a good solution.
Yeah.
And the summer,
But if they trade for Quick, then they're locked in with Quick and Campbell because Quick is got 2 more years. Ullmark, I mean, let's say they
might be able to move Campbell and sign Ullmark. That's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they want to move. I don't think they want to move Campbell. Campbell is somebody that Dubas is known going back to Sault Ste. Marie. He likes him. The team likes him. I think he's cheap. I think if they're going to go with a 1A, 1B next year, if they decide to move on from Anderson, it's probably going to be a guy like Ullmark or somebody that they trade for through Seattle in the expansion draft. I don't see them going veteran with somebody who's got term left because they've got other players that they want to sign, like Riley, like Hyman. So
the other thing I have to talk about real quickly, I'll jump into that a little bit later so we can continue on because this is our job. We should be doing this. I'd rather be here. We got Bill Meltzer in that press conference anyway. So, all right. The other thing I'll say that is really interesting is there is pressure, I'm being told, from the Molson family to make a trade for Ekholm. And the reality is, that's a really hard thing to pull off. He doesn't have the money to do it. He doesn't have the salary cap money to do it. He's got to make something. It's absolute perfect fit for Montreal, no question.
He does if they put Sherratt on LTIR. They said that the time frame for I think it was a broken hand or broken wrist is 8 weeks, which is close to the end of the season. So they could do basically what Tampa Bay is doing with Kucherov and hold him out until the beginning of the playoffs. And put him on LTIR and open up the space that way.
Right, and I think that could be how it plays out. I really do.
Okay. If you and I heard, I think it was Ray Ferraro that suggested this. So I'm not purloining from anybody. If I am David Poyle, and Mark Bergevin calls me and says I want Ekholm, the first name out of my mouth is Caulfield. And if he says no, then I hang up the phone
They're not going to move Caulfield in this deal.
I mean, they don't want to, but this is an all-star defenseman who's got term left in his contract, and if you're saying the Molson family is putting pressure on,
I mean, it could happen if they feel that Caulfield is, and we don't know if Caulfield is an NHL player. Like we definitely know that he's an unbelievable college player.
Right.
But we've seen unbelievable college players not become unbelievable NHL players, right? So the question is, can those skills translate to the NHL level? It feels like they can because he just has that like. But
the Nashville's probably going to be willing to take. I mean,
for Nashville, I mean, he would be an incredible. He would be the perfect kind of player to do this with because he would be an exciting player to bring in. He would be. He'd probably be fired up to be there. He's the kind of guy I think wouldn't mind playing Nashville. He's got that kind of personality, and I think I always thought Montreal was a little bit intense for Cole Caulfield. From the 2 times I've talked to him. But I think Nashville would be pretty good. I'm not saying he can't handle it, but I just think that is it's going to be such a pressure cooker on him. Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to find out with Caulfield. We might see him play. I mean, we're going to see him play before the trade deadline. It sounds like, right? So the reality is, if we do, then we'll have at least a little bit. I mean, it's hard to make that judgment that quickly, right? Like Johansson gets in last night for Colorado, looks terrible, right? In that game against Arizona. And already, they're saying that Colorado's got to make another move for another goalie. It's his first. I feel bad for the guy. His first game out.
I mean, the funny thing was, I really thought that they were bringing in Johansson to be the taxi squad goalie because he's got NHL experience and he can go up and down. I didn't think that, unless I don't know if Hunter Miska is injured. I mean, they're just trying to mix in another goaltender to take some of the burden off of Grubauer. But I'm sorry, Joe Sakic, you've got to go out and get yourself a legitimate backup who can play games because Francouz doesn't sound like he's ever coming back, or at least not this year. And you gave up a 5th-round pick for Jonas Johansson, and if you read all the criticism from the Buffalo media that basically they said he couldn't stop a puck in practice, let alone during games.
It's a shame. I mean, it's a really weird spot to put him in, right? There is no news on Henry Lundqvist. It won't be this year, though.
No.
Back.
And Randy, why would Calgary trade Rittich to the Avs when Calgary thinks that they're still in the playoff race? I don't think Calgary is going to trade Bennett or trade Rittich or trade any of their UFAs until they think closer to the deadline and they think that they're out of it. Right.
I mean, I think Earl said something. This is interesting what he says here. And I think this is very right on. I think he's going to need that center to get in the puck in the NHL, so he can do his thing. The question is he like Johnny Gaudreau or is he Danny Briere? There's very different kinds of things there. And I don't know and he's not a center, so I mean, he's not Briere.
We'll ask this question to Ross tomorrow because he could give a better answer on it. I would think he's closer to an Alex DeBrincat.
Yeah, like is he DeBrincat? Yeah, which is like a different. Yeah, I think that's a good comparison. And then DeBrincat, I think, is obviously good, but does need something. I think Caulfield is going to need something. It's because he's going to be too easy to key on him if he doesn't have other players on his line.
And Montreal doesn't have that center right now.
Right, they don't have that center.
Kotkaniemi. I like Nick Suzuki, but I don't know if he's a good enough playmaker to really accentuate the positives of Caulfield. And Danault is mostly a two-way center, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think I do think we're going to see some really interesting moves, possibly coming up over the weekend. We're getting close to that point right now.
Well, one, and I mentioned this last week, and I asked this of Kyle Dubas regarding the inventiveness of trades in terms of last year. They made the Leonard deal, and Toronto retained over $1 million in salary to make Leonard fit under Vegas's cap. And would they do that again? And he said anything was possible. Well, ironically, the team that was the originator of the deal was Chicago. Because they had Leonard on their roster, and he went through Toronto to Vegas. Chicago has got a ton of money on LTIR with Taves and Seabrook, and they could be the middleman in any deal with the Leafs if they have to. If they don't go after Garland and they're going after somebody with salary, it might be Chicago who acts as the middleman in that deal.
I like that. I think you might be close on that one. I really do.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what else I got. Oh, the other guy that's becoming suddenly very popular is Foligno. He's out there, and he's definitely one of those. He's one. I think he's a B or C plan for Toronto.
I think he would be, but the question is whether Columbus believes they're in the race or not. Right now, they're 2 points behind Chicago for fourth spot in the Central, and if they think they're in the race, then they probably won't trade him or David Savard.
Right. I think you're right about that. The interesting thing about the price for Eric Staal is I've heard there's only one place willing to pay anywhere close to what Buffalo would like, and that's Carolina. And I think that the reality is Eric Staal is worth more to Carolina than he is anybody else, because he goes there and just what he brings with the emotion that he brings and the history of this is the guy who was there with the Stanley Cup. I just think
that's not what Carolina needs. They don't
need really what they need, but a good story, and I think that at this point in his career, that's really what he is going to be more of an emotional support animal.
In a way, he replaces Justin Williams as that veteran
guy. Right, and he's different than Justin Williams the way he plays. He's not going to, but he also has so much respect there.
And his brother is there. So
his brother, right, and so
they could trade for Mark Staal and have all three brothers there.
They could bring the Stahls all together and get the goal and get the goalie in there.
Well, that's the thing. If they do all this and they don't get the goalie, then what the hell's the point? It's just.
Well, there's a Staal goalie too, isn't there? There's a kid, right?
No. The youngest brother was a forward, and he never made the NHL.
Okay,
they played one game in the NHL.
Yeah.
But yeah, see that's the thing. We have to watch out for. Columbus may be not selling right now because they're close. Vancouver may be delusional and thinking that they're still in it when they played 5 more games than the fourth place team. Right. All these things. And the talk is the Leafs may be waiting around to see whether the quarantine drops to 7 days so they can make a deal with a American team instead of a Canadian team, and that's risky because they don't know if that's going to be the case or not.
Yep. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to try to jump in on this press conference. We will be back again tomorrow, hopefully without any hiccups. Every time when we planned the show today, it would have been fine if it was 1:00 today, but it turned. But you never know. So anyway, you never know when people are going to start calling. So that's the fun part of this time of year, anyway. Remember, without the buzz, folks, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.